from the NBA world, did you hear what Draymond Green had to say on his show about the respect that past generations of basketball players have towards his generation? He did not mince words, and neither did former NBA star Baron Davis in this, what I thought was an absolutely fascinating conversation.
People say you must respect each era, but the past eras don't respect this era.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that respect is passed down to us from the other generations, but I think people are quick to say, oh, you got to respect them because they came before. I don't agree with that.
You absolutely have to absolutely respect the people who came before you, because
my respect is earned. And what you did to somebody else don't necessarily earn you respect. Just because you played before me does not mean you deserve respect. I'm sorry, but God had in his plan for you to be born before me and you just deserve respect because of that? Nah, my mom ain't raised me that way. Respect is earned.
An absolutely fascinating give and take. And I wanted to put together this group because there's a lot of different perspective here. This applies to all sports, to football and beyond. Candidly, it applies beyond sports as well. But Marcus, I'll start with you as a player who is active, I mean, in theory, even now, and obviously played in this current generation. And I'm sure you were part of conversations like this all the time on team planes and whatever else, wherever else you may be talking about it. Do the players of this generation feel as though they are disrespected by players of the past?
I have to say, yeah, you have Chuck and Charles, and Charles and Shaq sometimes go on there, and they're I wouldn't say disrespecting players because I am a player, and it's certain players, right? It's certain players that don't show up. It's certain players that's getting paid the amount of money but don't put it out there every night, right? I think Draymond can speak for himself and maybe the Warriors, right? When he says about the respect aspect. But if you look around the league and you kind of take a look back at what the guys before us have done to be able to have guys to be able to sit out games. You couldn't do those type of things back in the day. Guys played through injury. They don't do that no more. So I think when the older guys are speaking on that, it's speaking about like being present for 82 games, putting your body on the line, earning your money. A lot of these guys in the NBA don't. So I don't fully agree with what Draymond said.
There's a level of appreciation that I think goes in both directions. I think that an older generation of players may feel as though we built this thing for you guys so that you can live the way you do. You can make the money that you do. And it would just, I can't speak for anybody else, but it feels to me like sometimes what they're saying is it would be nice if you showed that you were aware of that and that you appreciate that. And that's the part where I would disagree with Draymond. It's not just that they played before, but that they actually constructed something that did not previously exist. That has given the players of this generation opportunities that players of previous generations could never have even dreamt of. Alan, you've been around it a long time.
Yeah, it's 20 years, and it's something even LeBron has recently talked about as well, is the respect factor. But this has all started because Oscar Robertson was actually reacting to something that Draymond said, saying that the NBA game is boring. And so he said, well, maybe it's boring because you're just passing the ball to Steph Curry. That's all you're doing. And maybe it's boring for you. And so there's a little shot. But first of all, for Draymond Green, like, trash talk is part of your whole game. Like, so all he's doing is just throwing a little bit of shade at you. I don't think it was disrespect of a generation. I think it was simply disrespect because you were saying something about the NBA game that Oscar feels very personal about, right? So that's all the things. I feel like the sensitivity factor in the current generation when it comes to criticism is something that we really didn't see as much in the past.
How about, what is your, again, as guys who played, it's a different sport, but it's the same generation, and very recently, what is your, when you hear this?
It's no different than being a parent. Like, I look at my kids in my household, they're growing up completely different than I did from a single parent growing up. And I can't look at them and criticize the things that they assume or take for granted, because those are some of the things I provided. I think what Draymond Green has to realize, yes, the players that have come before me, they've set the stepping stone for us to go out there and do our thing. But what he's asking is for that mutual respect for the guys to come and say, hey, I don't want to hear someone say Steph Curry couldn't play in our era, or LeBron and his flopping wouldn't work in the 80s. Everybody would adjust and play their game. So I think that respect level has to be mutual, where the guys that came before us can watch our game and say, yes, in our sport, it is very different. You can't hit the same way and do some of those same things, but the product is still great.
Yeah, I'm big on the mutual respect, but also J-Mac, I remember when I played, man, just having that respect for a guy like Billy White Shoes Johnson, who paved the way for me. And when you look at a guy like Jim Brown, who went through the things that he went through during his era to pave the way for all of us to be able to be compensated and play a game to the level that we're able to play with it, I think that respect has to be there. It also saddens me that you have a lot of players, right? You have these historians that played the game and paved the way. Why don't these young players reach out to those guys?
Never happens.
Let me know how you did it.
I will, yes, and this is all part of what should be and can be and will be a much bigger conversation. I will say, because sometimes I tend to take the older person's perspective on this, because I guess I am an older person, but I also think it is worth pointing out that the players of the modern era deal with criticism, deal with reaction, deal with more conversation about what they do than players of previous generations can ever have imagined. And I think that probably contributes to it as well. Alan Hahn is with us, and Marcus Morris is with us for the first time. Awesome. Again, the whole twin thing. We got you, we got J-Mac here. People always, because my wife is an identical twin, people always ask the same question. Do you ever play tricks on anyone? Do you ever fool anyone? Do you ever do that sort of thing? They always do that.
We tried to.
Your rookie season, summer league, I was working for NBA TV. I interviewed both of you after the game, and you both wouldn't tell me who's who. And I didn't know what to ask.
Hey, when we were younger, we looked a lot more alike than we do now, right? So it was a lot easier back then. Now we kind of grown into our differences, but hey, man, we still got some tricks.
It's great to have you here. Terrific first hour. Let's roll into hour number 2 with the best team in the sport, the Oklahoma City Thunder, doing it again last night in a matchup against the Pistons. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they call him SGA, I call him MVP, taking on Cade Cunningham and company. Didn't shoot it particularly well last night, Allen, just 10 of 26, but the Thunder always finding different ways.
They do, and keep in mind, too, this Pistons team played hard, didn't have Cade Cunningham, but there was just too much SGA, too much depth for Oklahoma City.
Absolutely, SGA getting it done, and then when they need a bucket from somewhere else, how about in the fourth quarter, Lou Dort getting the... When Lou Dort is getting this role, you know it's going to be your night.
Friendly bounce.
14 points for him, Thunder a 9-point lead, and then it's SGA working it in the painted area. He would score 33, and the Thunder would go on to win it by 16. That's their 11th consecutive win. They just continue to roll. If the Thunder make it to the NBA Finals, consider this a good omen. They finished the regular season 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. The only loss was to the Cavs, who have won 61 games. Those 29 wins came by an average of 18 points. And now I'm going to say something you didn't already know, but should. The Oklahoma City Thunder of 2024-25 are having one of the greatest seasons in the history of the NBA. That's not an opinion. It is a statement of fact, and stating it is probably long overdue. Here's the deal. OKC has played 76 games. They've outscored their opponents by 1,018 points. In the 79-year history of the NBA, do you know how many teams finished with a point differential of plus 1,000? 3. And every one of them is basketball royalty. They are the 70-71 Bucks. The team was led by league MVP Lou Alcindor. The following year, the 71-72 Lakers. They won 69 games. They were led by Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West. And then, of course, the legendary 95-96 Bulls. They won 72 games, and they had the league MVP in Michael Jordan. All 3 of those teams won the title in those years, by the way, and they lost a combined 8 playoff games along the way. Now, this year's Thunder feature the likely MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who not only leads the league in scoring, but as of last night, he has 20 points in 69 straight games. That ties Michael Jordan's record for the most since the merger. OKC is on pace to win 69 games. They lead the league in every meaningful defensive category. And get this, they are going to be the second youngest team to be a top seed since they began seeding. The only younger one was themselves last year. So what I'm saying is get used to this now and into the future. What we are seeing is not merely the best team in basketball. It is also, quite possibly, one that we will be talking about for years and just maybe decades to come. That's who we're talking about when we're talking about the OKC Thunder. Shams, your thoughts on this team, what they are accomplishing, and what they're capable of.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the biggest acquisition that this organization has made over the last how many ever years. But to me, 2 moves really set up what we're seeing right now. One was drafting Josh Giddey 3.5, 4 years ago. That allowed them to go get Alex Caruso. You draft well, you develop players, and then you either keep them and you homegrown them, or you figure out other avenues to get more out of them. And they were able to do that with Alex Caruso. He's been a big key cog. And then another move, last trade deadline that went under the radar. They traded 3 contracts with multiple years for an expiring contract in Gordon Hayward, a $30 million deal. And everyone thought Gordon Hayward was going to be this massive addition on the court. But his value to the Thunder actually came with his expiring contract. That allowed them, after they shipped out multiple salaried players, they were able to use his expiring contract to go get Isaiah Hartenstein. That's how you develop, that's how you grow, and you add to the team. And yet they still have a ton of draft capital if they ever wanted to make a big move.
That's a franchise that is, how many times have they reinvented themselves since Kevin Durant left? Or even if you look back at that era of that big three, they've really been extremely well run. They need a championship to sort of put the cherry on the sundae. And maybe that's the important point here, Marcus, because I covered those 95, 96 Bulls. And they had a mantra that they said, I mean, I heard them say it literally every day. It don't mean a thing if you don't get the ring. And that's what it's about for this OKC team. Are they your pick to win the championship?
No, they can't be my pick. First of all, the others, right? I call them super others. Can they be super in the playoffs? Can they take their play up? We know what SGA is going to do. We know what he's going to give. But can the guys around him elevate their game to get them to the finals?
And you don't believe they can?
I don't.
You believe in the old heads. You're still believing in LeBron.
Yeah.
You're still believing in Steph. You're still believing in Jimmy Butler. You're believing in that generation of player here?
I am, because the old heads are getting better, right? They're not going down.
Yeah,
this team, what this team have done in the regular season is very impressive with such a young core, right? But the old heads are seasoned vets. They know when to turn it on. They know when to turn it off. This is something that we have to allow OKC to grow into, right? What they're doing is very impressive, but it's another level of basketball.
Is OKC your pick in the West?
It is. But I'm going to say this, though. Again, with great power comes great responsibility. And when you win as many games and win as easily as it looks like they win in the regular season, the expectations now rise to the point where this is what we're talking about. So their expectation is win the championship, which means if they don't, it's a failure, right? And so when does that pressure on them, which they didn't have last year, they haven't had yet, this is their first real experience in pressure. The end of a long regular season when you're winning like they are, there's no pressure right now. First round, probably won't be any pressure. But the pressure starts coming in the second round, especially if you start running into the old heads, right? You run into the LeBrons and Stephs. And how will they react? How will they respond? And how can they overcome the greatest expectation of all, which is to win a championship? Because that 73-win Warrior team was a great team, but they did not win the championship. Right.
NBA